Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a feeling we all know, but maybe don't totally understand: hunger. Turns out, it's not just one signal, it's two. And a lot of the time, they're pulling us in completely opposite directions. So, let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself grabbing a snack right after a big dinner? Or maybe felt that weird pang of hunger just an hour after a meal that really should have kept you full for hours? If any of that sounds familiar, then you felt the exact conflict we're talking about today. Our appetite can seem totally illogical, and we're about to figure out why. Okay, so let's start with the most obvious player in this game, your stomach. This is where we get what scientists call homeostatic hunger, which is really just the fancy term for your body's actual physical need for fuel. It's a biological process driven by real internal signals, not just a vague feeling. Now, at the very heart of this physical hunger is something called gastric emptying, or GE. The easiest way to think about it is like an internal clock in your stomach. It's a real measurable process that dictates how quickly your stomach physically empties after you eat. And the speed of that clock? Well, that has a huge impact on when you start feeling hungry all over again. To really nail down this connection, researchers at the Mayo Clinic set up this really smart experiment. They gave 134 people the exact same 320-calorie meal. Then, they used medical imaging to literally watch and see how fast each person's stomach emptied over the next 4 hours, all while asking them, "So, how hungry are you feeling right now?" And here's the bottom line, right from the study itself. A faster stomach clock is directly linked to a bigger appetite. It just shows this crystal clear connection between the physical act of digestion and the feeling of being hungry. Okay, but check out the actual data, because this is where it gets really interesting. The researchers found that the people whose stomachs empty the fastest, that rapid G group, they reported feeling a whopping 15.6% hungrier over that 4-hour window compared to everyone else. So a faster physical clock doesn't just mean hunger comes back sooner. It means it comes back stronger. But as we all know, the stomach is only half the story. I mean, come on, being full has never stopped any of us from wanting dessert, right? And that's because of the incredibly powerful and often just overriding influence of the brain. This brings us to the other kind of hunger. It's called hedonic hunger, and it's a psychological drive that plays by a whole different set of rules. This is the desire to eat for pure pleasure, not for energy. This is the hunger you feel when you smell fresh-baked cookies or see a pizza commercial, even if your body literally doesn't need a single extra calorie. So you see, this really sets up the central conflict. On one side, you've got homeostatic hunger, your body's practical need-based system. And on the other side, you've got hedonic hunger, your brain's pleasure-based system. And these two, they're in a constant tug of war for your attention. And this hedonic hunger isn't just some fuzzy craving. It's a specific biological chain reaction. The second you see or smell something delicious, your brain starts releasing dopamine. That's the chemical of reward and motivation. This creates this incredibly powerful drive to get that food, an impulse that can absolutely become strong enough to just shout over any fullness signals your stomach is trying to send. So what happens when these two super powerful systems start sending you conflicting messages? This is it. This is where the real battle for control over our eating habits happens. It's the gut versus brain showdown. Now, it turns out there's another key factor in this battle: your personality, specifically a trait called impulsivity. For people who are naturally more impulsive, the brain's reward system just hits harder. The sight of a tempting food can trigger a much stronger, almost impossible to resist impulse. So here's the crucial point where it all comes together. When you combine these two things, you get a perfect storm. Just imagine someone who naturally has a fast stomach clock. Their body's already sending them physical hunger signals all the time. Now, on top of that, add high impulsivity, so their brain basically goes into overdrive for every food ad they see or bakery they walk past. The result is this constant, super amplified drive to eat coming from both the body and the brain at the same time. Okay, so why does understanding this two-hunger system actually matter in the real world? Well, because it completely reframes how we think about appetite, about self-control, and our entire relationship with food. It all really comes down to this number, 2. Appetite isn't some simple on or off switch. It's a complex, constant negotiation going on between two totally different systems: your body's physical needs and your brain's psychological wants. So, what are the big takeaways from all this? First, remember that hunger is a conversation, not a command. Second, you have to recognize that the world we live in is basically a minefield of triggers, often engineered to be irresistible, that are aimed squarely at our brain's pleasure system. And finally, understanding your own patterns isn't really about willpower. It's about being aware of both your physical stomach clock and your psychological response to all those triggers. And all this really leaves us with one final question to think about. In that constant conversation happening between your body's needs and your brain's desires, which voice do you usually listen to? Knowing the answer might just be the first step to deciding who really gets the final say. Thanks for joining us.